move out the county and provide shelter until, they can, the first couple of days, they can get over the pond. But like you say, they were doing it for those years for practically nothing that the national was taking care of it. But as far as their work, they're on board it.
All right, so it sounds like we're thinking flat for that one for the moment.
Is this money mandated just for Carter County?
Yes. Anything that we give, they keep in Carter County.
We can keep it 2,500. What we got there?
For the moment, yeah, let's see where we end up out of the other end and go that way. Staying flat on Red Cross at the moment.
2,500.
Yeah, 2,500. They'd requested a $1,500 increase. Finance Department recommended 10%. We'll leave it flat for the moment because some of these others in here are bumping like crazy. So we'll see how we get. We'll see where we get to. East Tennessee Spay and Neuter.
That's a total new one.
Yep. I think it's the only completely new one we've got this year is this one. So if I'm not mistaken, they go to around to different counties. They're in Sullivan County and Washington County and I think Unicoi and
See, Washington County's setting their own that
Are they
period.
They're
Ain't
just
it?
Carter. They're just Carter,
East Tennessee Spay and Neuter is just Carter.
Yeah, they set up at Tractor Supply from 10 to 12 and sign up for Margaret Mitchell, which is, I think it's at 10 between Abingdon and Bristol. And so I don't know the whole story there, but they profit a little bit from that. So I don't know. I think what she said was they wanted this funding to help people because they ask for food, like when they can't afford to spay and neuter and they literally can't afford to feed their animals if they spay and neuter. So they were wanting to be able to provide that.
This was for, if best I remember them, it was a dollar-to-dollar match. They had somebody that was, the person that was gonna match them dollar for dollar, every bit that the county gave. And then they was gonna use it to offset the cost of the spay and neuter for people that couldn't afford to do it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking from Austin is what they had mentioned in their presentation was that it was to give reduced cost spays and neuters. And so
She said they had some from the city in hopes that they have $10,000. Somebody was gonna match them dollar for dollar, every dollar they got.
My question is,
There is a need.
is it 100% staying in Carter County?
Yes. They don't.
yeah, I would agree. If it stays within Carter County, I would probably go. I'd like to see some numbers, what they use out of it for next year and probably give them part, like Carolyn suggested, give them part this year, see what their numbers look like. And then if they're running through some good numbers and actually expending all the funding, go up from there.
If we give them the 1,500 they passed, how many animals will that spay and neuter?
I think that it gives them a reduced cost. I think it cuts it in half. And so what do they normally charge, like $50, $70?
70 is what it says actually.
Okay.
Yeah, but
That's awesome.
maybe only you, whoever the anonymous donor is gonna match them dollar for dollar, so.
The other thing
There
is,
is a great need. I mean, I have people hit me up all the time that they don't have the money and I help people too.
the other thing if we look at the animal shelter budget for deer, is that a line item in the budget that they have estimated or requested for to do that same service?
Spay and neuters, do they not?
So that,
I think it just goes under medical services. Is that what it was?
but it's part of the medical services.
They do give a coupon for spay and neutering, a voucher for spay and neutering when you get one through the shelter, so it's available for spay and neutering through the shelter, so I understand.
Does that go through East Tennessee Spay and Neuter or who's it for?
No, that goes to the animal shelter.
It goes to the animal shelter and.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah. I'm saying, but who's that voucher for?
Is it humane
The person that adopts an animal or whatever. Is that
What
right?
vet's office? What vet's
Well,
office?
they use different ones. They're like me, we're grabbing at straws, whoever can Margaret Mitchell, Robinsons, whoever can do them at a decent price.
Why don't
I think the Humane Society helps her offset some of it.
But I think according to our deputy director, see, that's under the line item of the medical, in their,
That's different. When you get them from the animal shelter, that's just the animal shelter animals. This, say you want to go adopt a dog or you found a dog in your neighborhood, you want to keep it, but you can't afford to have it spayed. My son just had one spayed and it was $400. No one including the shots.
I literally just had somebody have that same scenario.
So that's why, this right here is actually a really good thing, because then they can just log on to my site and say, hey, I want to sign up. And, I mean, $75 versus $400 is a screaming deal.
They set it up with Margaret Mitchell to transport, so Margaret Mitchell drops the van up here. So the people just show up at Tractor Supply at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then they don't have to drive
Come
all the
back
way.
and get their dogs.
Basically, Abingdon.
It's actually a good
I mean,
thing.
it is a good thing.
I think I know where Brad's kind of going with this. Why don't we have the animal shelter in East Tennessee Spay and Neuter hook up?
Together.
I mean, that would make more sense.
Do you want me to answer that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
They don't work with others.
No, they don't pay well.
Which one?
Which one? Gary has.
on your list, on the ARP list, there is a group that is submitted for $650,000 for us, Spay and Neuter clinic.
Yeah, but then who are you gonna pay? I mean, how are they gonna pay a vet when you think about it? I mean, if they're gonna do a clinic, that's not including what the vet themselves, right? Is that just not the clinic itself?
Yeah, but I don't, it's not a
Maybe like the
government.
Radio Communications Act, there'll be a whole nother list of
It's
bills.
not a government agency or anything. It's not, I didn't see any scope with it, how that was gonna be handled.
That's through the Friends group, the Friends of the Shelter.
Friends of it, whoever it is doing it.
And that would be fabulous. Like, there are other counties that like have free spay and neuters, and they don't have the populations that we have. It would be fabulous, but somebody does have to pay the vet eventually.
Me read this out of that handout they gave us. The proposed use of the appropriation is provide reduced spay neuter fees to low-income residents of Carter County. Also allow us to provide discounts for some of our veterinary services. It should be noted that we have a relationship with a nonprofit organization that will do 100% match for funds we receive from local governments.
So 25 turns into 5.
They asked for the same from the city, so it'll turn to 10.
They have to do what? Here.
So basically, we give them 2,500, they're getting 100% match from a nonprofit. So we give them 2.5, they get 5 out of it.
And they do stay busy, don't they?
Oh, they do, yeah.
Did you see people lined up out there on the days that they're actually there?
You see, they have the Critter Care Bus too, which is in a different location each month. They move around, but they do like low-cost vaccinations and just typical things. And they have a vet that volunteers her time for that. She's a retired vet. So they do, I think they spend their money wisely. I will say that.
Like Dr. Verrier rubbed at the bus for a long time, didn't he? Same job.
Yeah.
Look at it this way, when you're controlling the animal population, you're saving on the animal shelter. Over a long, I mean, one thing leads to the saving somewhere else.
I will say, as many vouchers as I've helped with the Humane Society, I'm the lowest number on kittens I've ever had out of 5 years. So I am starting to see a difference finally. It has taken 5 years though. Don't tell anybody. Shh. I'll get 10 calls tonight about
Got
kittens.
the lowest kitten ratio I've ever had too.
Just anytime you're in the meeting, reach and grab what you want to do, man. So you're gonna keep it at 25 for the present time, Chair?
Yeah, let's hang on to that one at 25 for the moment, and we'll see what can be done regarding that one. Butler Fire Department. Travis is normally the one that has the straight dope on the Butler Fire Department, so they gave them 3 last year. They're asking for 5 again.
They'll be getting ARP money too, right?
Potentially from Johnson County. I don't think so. It is.
Didn't they make the statement that they didn't cross the Butler Bridge?
Yeah, I've heard that as well, so I'm not sure what we're giving them 3,000 for if the mutual aid is not there anymore.
I don't know. We have worked wrecks and they've been there.
They came
And I
out here and
rarely
made the
go to
statement.
Butler Bridge. So it's in Carter County side. I don't know about mutual aid on house fires or things like that. I can't believe they wouldn't.
Well, there's quite a bit of our county property and a lot of residents in this county that's, even within sight of the fire department itself. And I know that its main resource is from Johnson County. The biggest problem that they had, I think, in the statements they made here they're saying, well, we don't get dispatched by 911 of Carter, we get it out of Johnson. So if the call is not transferred over, they don't have knowledge of it until maybe after late. But I would say if you look at the rolling sheets, they don't get called out that much.
I don't know. Like I said, where I see them is on wreck scenes. I don't know about house fires.
I know when we were looking at it a couple of years ago, there was like 47 calls, 47 times they've been called out, and many of those times they never even showed up. So that was the reason, and they've made other comments in here, I think, to 911 about they're not crossing the Butler Bridge anymore. So
I know they had a fire and Hampton beat them to it just a month ago. So
Maybe we could keep them where they were last year and then just do some homework on this. I know we should have already done that, but I didn't think about that,
because we can pull the number of times they were dispatched from 911. He'll give us the info. So for now, we'll stay flat and we'll see how many calls they actually responded to.
Johnson County gives them 20,000, is what this says.
Yeah. RSVP is staying flat. Keep that one flat and keep moving. Because that one, it's not the RSVP program, is it? They said they discontinued that program. Is that the one?
Yeah. It's their residency.
Yeah,
Now.
they were using it for utility bills for people.
Right.
So Children's Advocacy Center, same thing. Imagination Library, Kids Like Us.
well, I'm the first to jump in on this one. They are no longer in Carter County. They are in Bristol. And, all their paperwork is approved, but from what we've been discussing, they are now for profit and 501c.
At the presentation of the representative beginning here this year, that was the first thing out of her mouth when she stepped aside the podium and let it know that they had dropped their nonprofit status. They are now profit.
Yeah.
So,
They say that they are still servicing Carter County kids, but I can tell you 3 kids right now that were cut off their list and they were not called back, even though they are, I think, running in Bristol. So I would really like some kind of verification that Carter County kids are actually still going there. Because it's no longer a Carter County.
Yeah. And So I'm definitely for now leaving that one alone at 5. KCCB, any disagreement on the Kids Like Us part?
Well, on the kids like us, if they ain't here, I don't see why we don't cut it till we get it clear
Yeah.
of them passing us.
That's kind of where I was thinking on it.
They
I didn't
indicated-
want to be the ugly in the room.
It indicated 75 kids from Carter County was still going over there. And
It's in there.
that's, so 75 or 76 was it? I don't remember. She said it was 75 or 76 that kids were still coming from Carter County going over there. And so
I would
if
personally
they're now a
like,
profit company, they're not going to give us a roster.
Well, I'm not sure, and I'd have to direct that to the county attorney. That you are for profit. And us as a government entity providing funds for a private to make profit off of.
Because we require everyone to submit their nonprofit status, their charity, under this umbrella anyway.
So I guess that kind of takes care of that then.
Supposed to be nonprofit or charity. It doesn't have to be 501c3. It can be a nonprofit or charitable organization. If they're not that, then they should qualify.
Well, that's what her statement was, that they had dropped the nonprofit, they are now a profit. Come out.
So legally, we can't give them anything now at this point. So 0. KCCB, staying flat. Any objections?
They actually asked for 7,000, I believe, is when Don presented that that's what they wanted. And I said, yeah, I think you're stretching it out there, Don, but, and we have become 501c3 just recently through the chamber partnership, but that fell through. So we've got the 501c and, a little bit of money in the bank. So, the 5,000, I think, would be sufficient there.
All right, cool.
I mean, I would like to see 7, but I don't think we're.
Well, we just freed up $5,000.
Well, let's give us that too then, but.
Add that to my line.
Isaiah House. They're asking for an increase of 2,500. I think this is the first time that they've ever asked for an increase from us. Other than their initial allotment. And I haven't had the chance to talk to a lady I go to church with. She's over it, so I don't know. I don't know if something's changed or if something was happening during COVID or what.
We'll say it's an amazing thing that they're doing, and it's blowed up and it's moving and traveling, but you might want to check the salaries. They pay themselves like a huge salary. That concerns me. I mean, I don't make a salary, you know what I'm saying? Like, somebody that takes a nonprofit and pays themselves a huge salary, to me, it's a red flag.
Previously, they only had one part-time employee that was paid. Is that correct? Historically.
That's not correct.
There's 2 or 3 of them now. The church I go to helps fund, way up there with it.
I mean, the director makes a huge salary. I'm not saying they don't do a wonderful service, because they do. It's just very shocking when you see the numbers.
that's what always gets me, the American Red Cross. Says how salaries.
Even though they're doing good, but yeah, I guess I do my.
Roscoe's digging.
So
Yeah. What do you want?
I'd like to make that big old
Did they
salary.
include a salary schedule?
And that extra 5,000, I'll get myself a salary. Would, I know. Oh.
So, yeah.
Mine was in my car and I cleaned my car out. I forgot to grab it before I left the house.
I know well,
Has it.
They see, according to their annual, their balance sheet they show here, and their contributions, which is, individual one time makes up 3%, business 5,000, foundation to monthly contributions up to 40,000, total contribution 92,000. And then fundraisers, golf tournaments, lemonade stands, T-shirts and all that came to 112,000 just in income. Operation. Admin, allocated share, admin is 15,680, program coordinator 62,000, that show any other employee in that at all. So it says program coordinator, so
I think I know what Isaiah House has done. I think this is individual funding that stays for our individual house. And they have a separate organization that's responsible for
each individual
building the other ones that other states are looking for. So for now, let's leave that one at 5. And I'll talk to the lady I go to church with. She's on the board and go from there. All right. Austin, you care to take over for a minute? I got to take a break.
Chair, before you go our, when we say we hold it to find out further information, look at our timetable. I mean, how we gonna be able to do that?
I'll be able to get it by Sunday.
Yippee-ki-yay.
All right, next up's the fire department. What do y'all want to do?
I say exit out completely.
What do they've got, what's the request?
65.
65.
One sheet I got says to be determined, so.
65,000.
Yeah.
We gave them 5 last year.
Our recommendation it was 10%. We didn't put that down there, but it was.
Well, we put.
Oh, no, it was based on what the other ones get, what the
Right.
other fire departments get.
Volunteer fire departments asked for another $4,000 each.
So we gave it,
Puts them where? Where does that put
Oh.
them? What each department gets?
we didn't give the,
65,000.
Okay.
This was your request as it was presented, had to deal with training. The city's fire brigade trains and holds training sessions for the 8 volunteer fire departments in our county. That's what this specific one is, because they've got other requests throughout. But last year being at 5,000, and there's been, as far as I know, there's been no change in the ISO. Do you know if there's been any change elevation on any of the ISO?
The Simile Creek station will change.
Yeah, but it has to come up because it's brand new. So,
Who will change it?
up our Cinnamon Creek new subdivision.
It won't be no trucks in there.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying. They can only, they're starting at 0 till they certify as they go on.
Everybody gets? The majority can. Well, if they're field training our county guys, like Billy said, every 3 years. That says something. I mean. And they are extremely good at bringing their equipment and coming out when there's fires in the county.
Who is? 4 years, 911. You know how many fires they responded to on request? And I'll hold up one hand and I'll give you a hig.
Big ones.
I'll tell you how many in 4 years.
You'd have to prove that to me.
Okay, call 911 and go up there and ask them how many requests by fire chiefs in the 4 years for assistance.
Really?
Good. And they're asking for $1 million.
Brad, what do you say, just want to leave that at 5,000 for, because of the training?
Son, I'm the janitor in this bunch.
Well, I know. You're the one that was talking.
No, I'm just giving the view to
Get sued now for chopping, maybe.
I mean, honestly, we're trying to get the fire departments up to help everybody's ISOs. I'm kind of with Julie. I could give them 3,000 more.
Why don't we just go that 9,000 right?
I mean, that's 10%. I mean, we gained 5 up there. It still
She's
is.
recommending 9, I mean, 9 sounds good.
Well, maybe they're more willing.
It's kind of an olive branch for them, maybe. Olive branch. What you give it
That's
to
what
them.
I think. I mean, it's time to start playing nice. We don't have to, it don't have to be big eye, little you, or vice versa. I get sick of the, sorry.
You might be more willing if we're.
Need to be excused. They want to play nice.
I've heard several of the big things. When it was presented here before us, it was more for the training mode, training capability. Stay.
I'm going to leave them, give them the 9. I mean, honestly, that's.
Give them a 9. Give them a 9. Give them a 9, Julie.
All right,
We don't care what the.
Well, move on. Second harvest.
9 on the, okay. They stay the same.
But yeah, they just stay the same.
That's been the biggest, if you remember her presentation for us, that is the biggest food supplier for this county. And not only, they are, I'm gonna say the octopus, because from the octopus to tentacle, they distribute the food to a lot of these other organizations that we're supporting also. And it was surprising to me how little that we contributed to them because of the services they render and who it renders to, and the amount in our census report of people that's below the poverty level. And so, well, them, more you give to them, the better off the nutritional life quality for extremely low income people in the county.
Did they provide food for the, when Harmony Baptist gave out those food boxes? Was that there?
Valley Forge does it. From Sunbrook,
Yes.
the elementary, that's second harvest. I mean, that's, we're paying, all the churches are paying to them.
Riverside up here, that's Second Harvest.
Well, I know I worked traffic for them on that one from, the 2 from Harmony and miles long cars.
That was Second Harvest.
Got 2 on
They're
Stone.
massive.
I wondered if it was the same batch. I thought it was.
All right, Shepherd's Inn.
I agree with them. It covers their rent for a year, so I don't see they didn't make any
The only
changes.
thing that bothers me about them is how they were not taking people in unless they've been vaccinated. If you have somebody in need, you're not gonna care. I'm sorry, but you're not really gonna care so much if they're vaccinated or not, if they need a place to stay.
It's tricky though, because if you bring them in and then they get everybody in there sick, I mean, I guess you could have a holding place for them, but you gotta think about the other.
That's the only thing that bothered me about it.
Kids that can't be vaccinated.
Exactly where is that located? Anybody treated?
Folks around.
No, it's,
Private
I
location.
thought it was like an anonymous.
Top location. The reason why it's anonymous is that way that it's because these are people that are victims of domestic.
well, it's women and kids. Men are not out there, so.
If we meet up behind the rock down here in front, I'll whisper, tell you where they're at. If you want.
All right, so you want to leave them alone?
Yes.
They made the statement, just, that pays the rent for years. We've done it for the last.
Loaves and fish, Fish's Outreach.
Is that the one that came to us just a month or 2 ago and asked? For we,
It's been a little longer than that, but
yeah, just 2 or 3 weeks.
last year, wasn't it?
We bought equipment with it.
They've been feeding a lot of people hot meals.
Guys, I mean, I'm all for helping people. When you look down this, Look at these, every one of them's almost the same thing, just changing the name.
Well, they actually, I mean, they hand out food boxes, but their big thing is they cook hot meals.
That's the one at the church.
Which one?
City Elizabeth one was 9,000, everything else
Don't
the
they
same.
also have a list so that people like can't keep overlapping? I think the only ones that have the list that kind of keep it from happening.
I think ARM does that too, so that people aren't overlapping, yeah.
And remember, they did it when they first started out. They were housing the homeless until that became a nightmare, and they put an end to that. And went to,
Well, because they'd asked 12,000 last year to buy equipment. So, and this was going for what, their electric bill and different things like that this year. So this is like actual operations this year.
when she made a presentation, remember, she had also made it a statement that portion of it would be for purchasing additional from Second Harvest, because there's certain contributions that each one of these had to deal.
They even came out when Harmony was giving out the food boxes and volunteered their time to hand out those boxes and load cars. Same group.
I'm fine with leaving it.
So it's leaving them at 12.
Yeah.
Hopping on down to Appalachian Tales. How many did that run you through this year, Robin?
This year, 238, I'd have to look back at the paperwork myself.
248.
248. Yeah. Right now, we're in the red, but we got a big old golf tournament on Saturday that nobody's playing golf with, but some of you did donate, so. But we have to do fundraisers to survive.
Is that the one you're on?
What's your average keep on an animal?
Average keep, I'll keep until they're adopted out, but
Yeah, how long?
oldest one I have right now.
Social Security?
Yeah.
Very high-end extreme.
I was gonna say, I took 7 feral cats when I first started rescuing. I still have 2 of those. You can't adopt out ferals very easily, but that's extreme. So on average, 3 months maybe. It's pretty fast.
You use this.
55 cents a day.
You use it to feed them and.
You know, mostly the spay and neuter and the vetting cost, but it helps with feeding, medical expenses when we get
Never mind, I'll
one
tell you.
sick or injured. I've helped a few people that have cried on the phone begging, because the Humane Society won't answer the phone. Shannon's not in. So we've taken on a few medical costs there, but
Let's look at it. This is kind of the perspective. 12,000 for 240 animals, and the average stay of about 90 days comes out to about 56 cents a day. Average cost for housing an animal's over it a day.
Then leave it where it's at.
Let's see, and then the makeup from the previous finance director, when we done cost on our own operation, it was just shade of $4 a day was the cost.
Yeah. If you look at the national average, it's somewhere between $8 and $17, depending on where you are. Like rural counties is generally significantly less, big cities is significantly more. But high end is about $17 per day, and coming out at 55.
and it's hard. I mean, it's hard to come up with an average, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've got 3 calls that the shelter told them to call me today. And I've got more cats than probably the shelter right now.
So
So,
by that token, if our county department is relying on nonprofits to help out, I don't think it's a bad idea to keep funding.
And I think
I mean, I can play the messages. They're from today. I haven't even called the people back.
the policy and the procedure of the operation dictates the cost. And we all, and I think everybody pretty well knows that the one that we have with us needs to be modified, rewritten, updated, because there is no limitations as to the length of stay. And you can't continue at that cost, because at the time when it came in debate on the floor, that was more cost than what the cost of the child going to school that the state provides. You know, how that shock your system.
Trust me, I think I was one of the ones that worked on that math. It's not
I
fun.
mean,
It's not fun.
it's needed, but
Yeah.
there has to be there need to be a limit. Says, you know, if it's up to 120 days, you can do everything conceivably under the sun to direct, because remember, these are.
Should have never been born. That's where it comes to the spay and neuter.
Yeah,
Should have.
yeah, I know that works with it too. You can't maintain a house full at that cost of 180 days or longer, because operation wise.
You don't have to tell me. Come on over anytime. I got litter boxes right now waiting.
Or if you see a head pop up, you left one in.
Hey, that can happen too. That can happen too. If you look at my car, there's carriers in there right now.
We're leaving it the same.
Yeah, I say we leave it the same. I think we're getting good value for that money. First Tennessee Development District, they're asking for less money.
Yeah, they ought to after what we give them.
Net rep. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the tirade from Brad, but I think he's restraining himself.
Isn't that the one that's questionable?
Which one, number 4?
Yes, this is,
Providing for car.
They were trying to do that recruitment for bringing people in.
Started
That's what the money was supposed to be for, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Directly.
He was saying that the funding that directly comes in would be used to incentivize remote workers to come directly to Carter County.
Have they brought any?
Well, they are not doing the program if we don't fund it.
Well, let's go to the other side of the house. At one time, they were at 180,000 to bring industry into Carter County. Okay. And each year, we've had to reduce them because they could show no proof that they brought any into the county. Now, after we cut it and we got them down to 40,000, I think is at one time, then they changed the scope of their duties. Now they are trying to advertise and get people recreational wise and all into our county. Well, I don't want to pay somebody for what all the way. If it's here, they know it's on the map, but they have no track record of doing anything.
The only thing, the things that I've seen from them as far as the recreation master plan that they did for the region, it was a good recreation master plan, but for Carter County, it said bathrooms. So that was the primary thing, not,
Bridge Landing?
I don't know, but it wasn't about utilizing the things that were available and that sort of thing. It was about bathrooms or even advertising the things that are available. It was about infrastructure upgrades and different things like that. And I don't know who Mitch talked to whenever he did that, because I don't think it was Patty. I think it may have been and I think it was done around the time that Rusty was still in the office. So I think it was information that he had gotten from Rusty. So.
Well, I think, and just as a, one of my brain deals, and you all may have a better suggestion, but I think those funds for that line item could go into a reserve to be used for the purpose of one of two hats: an economic development for here in the county, the director, and a park and recreation person. Because if you look back again, the amount that has increased with the chamber And one of their biggest responsibilities and what they have identified, they are doing the advertisements for all the activities in the county, so that would, I think that would cover that.
That was the hope in the budget from Parks and Rec, is that the funds that were going to net rep could be reappropriated to that position that they were wanting to add there, and then having access to that reserve line item for economic development, the funds that are existing in there, which I think is what, 60 or 90,000 now.
Maybe around 60. Yeah, that's, yeah.
So you recommending,
Wasn't 90, so.
you recommending cutting the 15 out?
I'm recommending just going ahead with a great big eraser. You don't see the word net.
Well, net rep's getting ready to be absorbed by the hub anyways, and that's coming. They've already announced the hub.
Yeah, and
It's agreed to absorb into the hub.
And the way that they're going to function, the hub is going to function is they're not going to be doing anything specific in any individual county. It's that individual county's responsibility to have their own
Economic
development in that field, and they're going to amplify what that is. They're basically going to be carrying
Right
that
now, the
message.
hub is going to be funded by private.
Yeah, the hub, they're not asking us for any money
They're
on
not
the
asking
hub.
for any money, so
So we can safely remove them.
So it is.
15,000.
I think you can.
You can,
That's
because
15,000 then. Gone.
use of, for well, we're getting out of what our investment has been for the past 8 years is phenomenal. We have seen no results. Now, the last killer is, guess who the economic development director is for Washington County? The director for net rep. Now, you go take a look at it.
Well, and it doesn't mean it's 15,000 off. It just means it's 15,000 off of this to potentially be utilized somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I say, use that fund and put it to reserve for what we are planning, both in economic development and for the park and recreation here in the county.
All right, so. Boys and Girls Club. They're flat. So I think we can just move on from that one because we know they do good work. ARM, 7,500. Their books are transparent. You can see what they pay their director, what they pay their assistant director, what they pay their secretary, and it's not much. So they primarily survive off of this and other donations. So, Senior Citizen Center, I say flat because they've not increased their ask in at least 4 years that I'm aware of. They may have went up 1,500 like 2 years ago, but that was about it.
I tell you, we don't just say no, just get them all spurred up. They ain't had no activity in years. We're just glad to see you. Blood circulating all right?
I believe that senior citizens, I think their primary function or a large part of their function is Meals on Wheels. So.
Well, there is a place for my daughter, those old people. You can go play pool and you can get you a meal. They have some good programs up there. I would want to find.
You might need it someday.
There's somebody up there to keep with their medication and their movements and everything.
All right, moving on. Rehab center. Didn't they ask for like $70-some thousand like 2 years ago? Now they're just back down to flat. Was that them or was that another group?
This has been pretty well about the same level.
Yeah. I just remember they come in and requested like a huge increase and then the guy that had come in and made the request was like gone like 2 weeks later.
That's the building they occupy up there, in it on the left-hand side, going up the hill to see the church across on the right.
Yeah.
Where you go in one of the ways to the TAW.
Yep.
Is this the one?
Wait, this is one up on Arnie Hill, or near Arnie Hill, isn't it?
The one on Arnie Hill, they don't have anything up at government service now, do they? No, they've got the training they got the
They got some
They got
TCAT stuff
the,
up there.
Kubota,
Yeah.
Kubota's apparent didn't,
It was the one behind Tractor Supply.
beg your pardon?
One back behind Tractor Supply, back down in there.
I don't ever see a car there.
Who does Net-Trans? Is that them?
No. NetTrans has historically had their own.
Okay, it's above that. Let's see, that's.
So flat on rehab or? I'm hearing no objections, so we move on. And then First Tennessee Human Resources, though, which one?
I think that's Net-Trans. What?
Yeah.
They trans, Meals on Wheels, they do all that.
Definitely got to keep that one. Soil conservation. I don't think that's one we can mess with, can we? So. Public library. Asking for 13,789.
For the new members and everything, remember that if you increase, you can never decrease because of the effort of maintenance.
Maintenance of effort.
You never decrease, it. It'll stay like that forever until you raise it. And every time you raise it, that's a new balance.
How many years have you been running it at 75,000?
25.
Do what? No, they just got a pretty good increase last year.
Yeah, like.
There's always get the argument too that I think Civil Elizabeth gets like 450 or something like that on there. I mean, some let's say that 13,789 was going for personnel.
Yeah, they were wanting to hire another part-timer. Or take some part-timers to full-time. Oh, yeah, it was to increase the hours that they were going to be open. So they could meet the level 5 requirements or whatever it is for a public library.
Well, then again, their operation during the year was shut down. So that means that you should have a surplus in your budget for almost 3/4 of last year.
Sounds like.
I mean, so you're saying no matter what, we've got to give them the 75, but you can't cut it.
That's exactly right.
It's about the same that they wanted to cut with the 68. I say leave it the same.
Hill.
I'm not seeing any arguments from Gary.
Dollar for dollar. I mean, the way it is.
Elizabeth and Parks and Rec, 25 grand.
Let's go back. Are you saying we're going to stay to you directing 75?
Yeah, so we stay the same.
I just want to make sure I'm keeping it.
We're a minute lower, but you won't let me.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Brad said. They probably have some surplus funding left over from last year, but I would say a lot of those people worked remotely. I don't think that they were not getting paid whenever they weren't in there. So. Elizabeth and Parks and Rec, 25.
Yeah, we gave them 100 last year. Is that right?
No, we gave them 25 last year.
Did, but the 75 was for their special.
Oh, okay.
It's not part of their regular.
I always feel like we should give them a little bit more because they do a whole bunch, but,
Well, that's one of, that's one of the things that's coming up is because we're gaining so much recreational space and opportunity and everything in the county. And of course, the funds on your bed and breakfast and so forth, hotel, motel tax has increased. And that's something where the contract got by us the date to renegotiate our new contract in use of the funds, that we may need to look at between the park and rec with the city and whatever we come up with as a plan of action for in our part. In relation to the Chamber of Commerce, tourism, and all that, they should be some percentages that should be contributed over to the other because it's back to back.
Well, here's the rub with that, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. The way our private act is written, our private act is 1% above the state maximum, so we are allowed to keep it. If we make any changes to it, we lose that 1%. We can stay in the private act if we change the contract with we can change the party that we're contracted with. But within the scope of what is in the private act, it says that it has to be used for tourism and tourism development. Is that correct, Josh? And it depends on how tourism, quote unquote, development is defined in the private act on what we could actually use those funds for. But even then, we still have to be contracting with a third party, a nonprofit outside, not a county agency for that tourism and tourism development, and I think it may say recreational, I don't remember.
The definition is a little bit different in the private act than it is now. They've changed the definition some in the current law. Yeah, it's kind of vague, but it does have to be a separate entity and they get all the money.
Yeah, we can't break it up.
No, I mean, maybe theoretically you could give it to different agencies, but it still can't be retained by the county.
Yeah.
I mean, outside the agency.
Yeah, you could split it up, like one agency's doing this, and they get so much, one agency's doing this, they get so much, one agency's doing this, they get so much. Split it into thirds or whatever across them. Is that possible in the contract? Like 3 separate contracts? Or is it specifically for one outside agency?
I'd have to look at it again to verify whether we can split it up, but I know it has to be all the money. I mean, there's no portion of it that you can.
That we could retain.
Right.
Yeah, we can't retain any of it. It all has to go to an outside agency or multiple outside agencies. And technically, we have an outside agency that some of it could go to in the Joint Economic Community Development Board, but the way the bylaws are written for it, they can't receive money, if I'm not mistaken.
But does the communities, as an example, Roll Mountain Club that oversees now the maintenance and the use and the care for the park,
Eric Anderson Park.
and everything up there, that qualifies for it, doesn't it?
That's one of the things that is kind of gray.
I don't think so, to be honest with you.
Because we provide a board, we have a park and recreation board, and they provide a member for it. That's one of the reasons.
It's what it can be used for is specific, very specific in the definition. Private act, maybe under the new law definition, but what I'm saying is we can't, as the county, you can't really control it at all. All the money has to go. If you don't like who it's going to now, it still all has to go to a nonprofit organization, and that you can't necessarily control what they do with it.
When's that contract come up for negotiation?
2 years.
It renewed.
So it's after August, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, could a person cut it and then pay as needed and just come and then?
The way the private act is written, we have to give them all the money. Everything is generated. There is no cap. It's all money generated.
For 1%.
Right. We retain the clerk gets a fee and the trustee's office retains 1% or something. It ends up being like 95% of the money. Outside.
Go ahead, sir.
From my understanding, I'm going to be incorrect. We don't need to be fooling with the private act because the county controls it now. And we get all the sales tax revenue, all the bed and breakfasts, whether in the city or the county.
That's correct.
And so you gotta be real careful on what you do right here.
what it basically boils down to is what we include in the contract the next time it goes forward. Or what services that we ask for.
Who is that contract with?
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce.
If it's my understanding, and correct, the city agencies, they contribute nothing.
Correct, because
Chamber of Commerce,
their reasoning is there's 2 motels that sit inside the city limits. So all of the hotel motel tax goes from that, goes to them. So them getting additional funds, considering they've got those and all the bed and breakfast inside the city limits goes to that as well. So them not contributing anything is not really anything. It's more we're managing that revenue stream.
Think of that, Gary, man.
Just check on the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do. Nothing we can do about that. The Chamber of Commerce, that one's flat for whatever it is. It should just be a star, and it's like whatever hotel motel tax is. Because that one is not technically on the end budget, is it?
I mean, it's in and out, so.
It's pass through. We're just pass through for it. Yeah, flow through. But Elizabeth and Parks and Rec, 25,000. Because we'd give them $75,000 last year for the Hampton Watershed Trails under the auspices that they would be providing $37.5 as well to that project. But they ended up not providing that money last year. It was removed. It was removed from the budget. That $37.5 was. So if they provide it this year, we're essentially giving them, if we give the 25 this year, and they don't include an extra 37.5 to go towards that project, and over and above what they had done before, we're essentially funding it again. So
We just cut their sign down, put our sign up there.
the Sorba guys, the bike guys, Wes Bradley and those guys, they are on fire for Hampton Watershed Trails and getting it completed. And they've got master plans done. They've got designs done. They have gone above and beyond what any other organization in this county has done for developing a park. And when it'll be the best bike trail park in Northeast Tennessee. It'll be better than Tannery Knobs.
The length is why, because it's gonna be like 10 miles of trails in there.
Well,
Something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, and well, it's more than that. They're gonna have a pump track. They're gonna have skills park, parking where you can, people can actually park. And the objective is to take it all the way through the Forestry Service onto the very top of over there at Dennis Cove. So the drawings and stuff for it, I think they're in the process of doing phase 1 now, which is a trail expansion.
In June.
Yeah, so the next part, what we gave them is going to be completed in June up there. So those guys are, I cannot say enough good things about Wes Bradley and those guys.
Overall, everything that we've been dealing with in tourism, and you take the economic development of the region, and then other Chamber of Commerce's along with ours. And even so, then net rep, same thing, I'll get a report of how many millions it brings in. Now look at your revenue in this county for the past 10 years. What happened to a portion of those millions of dollars? The tourists have already been here. Our money never increases here. Where did it go? So I say their figures really are, their bathroom figures. Anybody can go there and change it, add to. But it just spurred me to when they come in with the economic account for two of the separate counties, from us. But all the millions they brought in, just like the new softball fields in Wing Deer Park that they're signing a $30 million contract, I think it is on that. How many millions that's bringing in per year because of the ASA or USAA groups and all. But look at their revenue level. Our government getting us to pay the custodian, and we can't even hire one.
On Parks and Rec, that's before we voted to put the money in the bicycle trail on up through there, right? What you're talking about. I don't know if any of you all know it, but actually, when you come through the double bridges and you look, there's a clear spot on the side of the mountain. That's mine. I border that. I logged it. It's 26 acres right there. If they can get a bicycle through those rocks, then the D6 bulldozer couldn't get through. I would really love to see them go on up to the Forest Service, because we couldn't put every piece of money we got in this county to the trail to the top of that hill.
The plan's already drawn over there off the trails, and I understand what you're saying, but they've got it drawn out. If you want to take the plans and go with Wes, he can show you exactly where it is.
They can go up and go to the right toward the daggone Doe River Gorge, but they ain't going up and to the left.
No.
Off the cliff.
It hooks out to the right to go up to the top of the mountain.
It pans out to the right hand side.
There's rocks in there that.
It used to be the old ore.
Yeah, the ore mines, it's gonna be more than they bargained for.
So,
Where we at?
we living in the same, or what are we doing?
I don't know, I thought we said
Okay.
rescue squad.
I mean, that's where I thought we was at. I mean, they asked the same that they asked for the last 5 years, I think, so.
They give them 25,000.
Mike and those guys do good things with that funding, so I don't see a reason to drop it. But I was a little annoyed that they did not put in the 37.5 that they had agreed to, so.
That's probably not Mike Mains's decision.
It was not Mike Mains's decision.
Well, that's one of them things that goes right back here. Remember when?
Yep.
You get my drift here.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a great suggestion, Chair. Take a 10-minute break.
Sounds good. We'll be back in 10.
Mustache on my picture of my billfold.
It's getting about that time, isn't it?
It's later.
Check one, two.
Needed my check. All right. So Parks and Rec, final statement. Flat.
We already,
Yeah, we already
All
got.
right, cool. Chamber of Commerce, we can't touch. Rescue Squad, an increase of $351,534.80.
Close to last year's, wasn't it?
Not even close.
I mean, the whole total was.
No.
Yeah, their increase is more than they got all of last year.
So I have a question. When we're looking at their budget items, when you break it down on page 11, it's still showing a purchase of one ambulance is $198,000, right? Is that a new purchase?
Yes. Because they put one in their budget and they're going to the ARP funds for the other one.
And there's two being asked for in the ARP. You got one
That's what I had
that's,
written down was 3 ambulances
yeah,
total, so.
there's one that goes on the new development just prior, well, they're at the boat dock on Creek. And the other,
One of them's
one was a suggestion by the health and welfare.
and then there was a heavyweight ambulance, an expanded size ambulance.
Yes.
That one was like 227,000, 221,
41.
240.
Well, my problem with that, and I'm gonna, I think, sheriff's department vehicles. You've already got ambulances sitting, and you don't have enough staff to fill them, with what you have right now. I just really don't see another ambulance. That's just my personal opinion.
And also regarding the pay rates and stuff, Carolyn, were you able to take a little bit more in-depth look at what I had shown you about the salaries for medics, advanced EMTs and EMTs? Bless you.
Goodness.
What their current salary is tracking about where it should be. Obviously, with with the fluctuations in salaries at the moment, it could end up being a little bit less, but I'd reached out to Johnson City, but or Washington County, and I hadn't got a response back as of yet, so don't expect they may. I didn't try Sullivan County, but.
Well, let's talk structure wise, and it has to deal with the legal side of the house. Mr. Harden, of course, they're incorporated and they operate off a contract with this government here for funds. Is that?
Used to, I mean, yeah,
It had been renewed in 3 years, so.
they're funded by the city and the county.
So what governs the prior or the last time that the contract was done? Is that still valid or is it void?
No, it's been essentially in the last 3 or 4 years, it's just been budget requests and that's basically it. There is no contractual relationship.
Okay.
Should there be?
Probably. Well, the statement by the director, his emphasis was going to be to go toward the raising of the salaries on the positions of the EMTs and paramedics.
I think there was one group of theirs that was slightly below, the advanced EMTs was slightly below the median salary average, but the paramedics were near the top. And by the end of the pay scale increases that they had requested, they would be in the top 20 percentile in the state, which is normally reserved in general for larger cities, Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga, and then larger small municipalities like Bradley County and the surrounding counties around Nashville, stuff like that. So
that he said he's gonna charge us to use his location if we put a tower. Maybe some sort of.
I don't think there was any talk about putting a tower up there, and we were footing the bill for their radios. I think that was in CI's contract.
Thing is, if we put a tower up there.
I didn't see in the RFP where it said there would be a tower on.
No, he's, White Rock is owned by the Forestry Service.
Yeah, White Rock's owned by the Forestry Service.
It's the Holston Mountain that he owns.
Oh, is that?
The tower,
Yes. And, yeah, and the land.
who was using that one?
Everybody. You've got repeaters all the way, as far as I know. I mean, everybody's got a repeater on there. Where, you still there? Where you, am I right?
Rescue squad uses it, sheriff's department uses it, and volunteer fire departments use it. Terry does own the tower. Carter County don't own it.
Talking about White Rock.
Just throwing that.
No, Holston.
Oh, okay.
Are the only one tower there?
That last month, that was owned by Johnson City or Washington County, which one was it?
Buffalo.
Not Buffalo's, who is what Washington County and Johnson City own. Buffalo Mountain. We're talking up on the Holston, going up the creek.
I personally am okay with the increase that we've looked at on that 20% for fuel and cleaning, whatever. But as far as that huge total, I don't know.
Are they sponsored anyway by United Way or anybody else?
No. My general conversations with nurses at Ballad Health that work in the ER, many times they have people coming in without IVs started. They're basically just running transport services. So they're not coming in with IVs started, other things in those things, but that was the main one that they mentioned is most of them came in without IVs. So go ahead, Mr. Tester.
When I was working before I retired, United Way, you could specify where your money went. And I do believe that Carter County Rescue Squad or EMS was on their list. You gave, it went to that. Whether that's changed or not, I don't know. And if I recall, last year, or year before one, we did increase theirs $50,000. Is that correct?
Yeah,
It was 60, was it not?
it was 60 over the previous year, which is what got them to the 322,700.
So the year before was what I was thinking about. 50, 60.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, it's been increased $110,000.
Last year was for the.
They got 60 grand, 63 or 68 last year for extra for COVID.
Yeah. So we've got the suggestion to leave them at a 20% increase, pushing them to 387, which would be an increase of 36,000 this year.
Frazier, I kind of agree with Julie though. I mean, if they ain't got nobody there,
Sorry, 55,000.
how are they running the trucks if they ain't got nobody in them? How you,
On the list breakdown, I think it shows and indicates which positions aren't filled. And they're currently using paramedic supervisors on the road, which I think is where they're supposed to be anyway, is on the road, not sitting in a office or anything like that. There's 5 paramedic supervisors on that list for their employees.
I mean, if we look back, everybody in here is asked for 10%, 2%, 10%, 10%. They're asking for 20, even the one under them is asking 10%.
No,
Well, that's a suggestion from the finance
It
department.
is a suggestion from finance. They're actually asking for probably 100.
674,000 is what they're asking for.
Still a pretty good increase. I mean.
They're asking for an additional 351,000.
I see that, but what I'm saying is when you really look at this, 20% of 300 some thousand, if you just went with 10% of it, it'd still be 35,000. I mean,
Well, how much are we gonna be paying him if we use his tower?
yeah,
We got a truck,
That line
truck with
is
that?
held up, and I don't care for that theory at all. I don't wanna be held up by anybody. If that's what it's gonna be, then.
But unless I'm wrong on the numbers, you got, the request at 674,000. You got 500,000 in request to ARP. Two vehicles there. So that, in essence, would be on top of this.
If you take out that 49,000 that they're figuring is the first payment or the yearly payment on this ambulance, that's 49.5. You take that, you can add that to that 322 and then the extra increase. That's not a bad increase.
I agree.
Well, let me ask Attorney Harden, as far as if we're looking at a contract, do you remember what the other contract said? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Because I'm just
At this
curious
moment.
what we need to be working toward.
Josh wish he has a photographic memory.
No, I don't remember. There was one version that was just granting them an exclusive franchise in the county so they could better plan for the future and borrow money and things. And then there was another actual term of service contract that was separate for rescue and emergency. There was like 3 categories. I don't remember the number.
I guess what I'm wondering is, in those categories, did it ever bring up, like, how many ambulances he had to have on per 24-hour shift?
There was at one point, an agreement that said you had to staff each of the existing stations or offices that they had. There was at one point one of those. But like I said, it's been at least 3 years, I think, since the last one expired, and there's not been a new one.
And Carolyn, this does not include the fee that we pay them for search and rescue, correct? So we pay the additional 170,000.
This is, and that's for what the original rescue squad part of it was.
Yeah, search and rescue.
Do we pay them?
Yes.
Because I know that when they have to go out and do a search and rescue on an hydrant, they are billed.
If they are not a resident of Carter County.
Yeah, okay.
If they are from out of the state, then they get billed. But if they're a resident of Carter County,
We're offsetting that when we make that payment.
we're paying that on behalf.
Paying that up front for half.
And if you think about it, that makes sense. If somebody is a resident of the county, us going to find them is, in my opinion, a duty that we should be performing.
Are they still talking about putting the one on 321 up there, staffing it? Butler boat.
Yeah, that's where one of the ambulances that they have requested would be going.
That was actually requested by a resident. That wasn't actually what requested by EMS.
They said it could be a fire department.
Terry requested one, but a resident of the Pogie area requested the other, which he's running for a commission spot right now. He's the one that made that request.
But in that, to the director of the squad, like I told him, said you can get your vehicle. It says,
You doesn't have to
staff
staff it.
guarantee it's gonna be there at that station, that it'll even be run because you may not have personnel to handle it. It may come eventually. I know when we set up, you had the Hampton substation. We got the Rome Mountain substation. It's been a while since I've been up there. Is it still manned or is it off and on?
Hampton is, I know, I see
They
their
bounce between, I think, Hampton and Roe Mountain.
whacking.
But we have had some very serious calls that nobody was in station. But now, I don't know, I don't know that they weren't in station because they were stationed at Hampton, or were they on a previous call? I mean, that local.
But I remember when I was on the road that if they pulled, Hampton had to go out on a call and pull for Lynn. They always had Road Mountain to float
Station, yep.
down to stay close by to hit either one of those zones. And vice versa, I think, on the west end of Carter County, if I'm not mistaken. The one that was always at the sign of the hospital.
I don't think that one's a sign there any longer. I don't think so. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't been there.
Okay, I just got confirmation from Billy. It is not stationed at the hospital any longer.
But here's what I'm looking at. That's $300-some thousand, $351,000 increase. Plus they've asked for how much in the ARP funds?
600?
I mean, that's $1 million right at it. I mean, it's.
Something's out of whack.
Bad.
Do you see how much you collected last year? Went back on runs.
I think Miss Gwen has the paper over there that has the
Well,
revenue.
yeah, their 21-22 revenue was $3,500,743.
So we fund approximately 10% of their operation. And that's 3 million including loss. It's 3 million that's actual revenue. That's not, I think he's got in there broken out.
Billable.
Yeah, that's actually what they received, not what they actually billed out. I think they billed out another $1 million or so that is unrealized.
But we're still trying to collect.
They turned it over to a collection agency, and out of the, is it $3 or $6 million that they have hanging out in collections right now?
Hold on.
In collections,
Yeah.
through the 22-23, it's showing $34,950.
I think the total amount in collection though, they listed a total amount
Oh,
in
wait a minute,
collections.
no, sorry, that's collections of write-offs. Sorry, I looked at the wrong thing.
They've got a huge chunk that's sitting out in collections at the moment. But obviously, whatever,
For, it says for the year in June 30, 2021, uncollectible accounts, $4,597,881.
so that $4 million is hanging out there that's in collections. And he said, whenever, and to that point, whenever more than 50% of your county's population is in an Alice situation where they are literally paycheck to paycheck or even underwater in some cases, that's not surprising that they have that much out there just hanging out.
And they are just showing 3 stations, which granted, Station 1 has how many ambulances? How many ambulances does Station 1 have?
I was up there yesterday. They've actually got about probably 7 or 8 sitting there.
So they're sitting there, okay.
But by that same token, they're going to have some that are broke down, some that have to be inspected, that they can't run at that particular moment, and then the others are on the road. I'm not saying that's what the case is, but bear that in mind whenever you're seeing the number, there's 7 or 8 ambulances sitting there. Are they not staffed, or are they waiting for inspection and he's got, another 5 out on the road, or, whatever.
I'm agreeing with you, but on the other hand.
And I'm not playing, I'm just putting it out there as part of the equation. And trust me, I get, there's no way that I could feasibly sign off on, $351,000 myself. I mean, it's a bridge too far.
I mean, do they want us to pay it here or pay it in the ARP funds? I mean, to me, can't have both.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, but if you say that.
These are reoccurring costs.
Fire departments and tell them the same thing.
One of the things about this is the majority of this $351,000 is in salary increases. And so those are going to be reoccurring costs. So if you go there, it's never going to come back down below that.
It's just too hard.
It's not specifically a maintenance of effort, but it is a maintenance of effort for them.
Explain that one more time.
The vast majority of the $351,000 request for increase is in salaries. And so those would be, that's not a one-time expense that they're asking us to foot the bill for. That is a reoccurring cost. And they gave us a schedule that over the next 3 to 5 years, it would be continuing to go up until it was over $500,000 in one additional request. Am I incorrect, Carolyn?
Definitely cut down our conditioner.
So
Let me get this right. We have $322,700
that we gave to them last year.
And the increases, the majority of it is 351, which is higher than it is right now, is going to salary increases.
I think it's going.
A lot of people would like to have raises like that.
Drug or something.
Yeah, 54, 50.
1,000 is for ambulance, it's the first
So
ambulance.
but 300,000 is what their ask is, and they can fluctuate obviously from that specific number, but like I said, the vast majority of this increase is directed towards salaries. He says that they're having a difficult time getting people because if people will come in and then go to Sullivan County, they will go to Washington County, they will go other locations because they are paying more. But from what I was able to see, and you can run the Google search yourself on the salaries for paramedics in Tennessee, and go to Glassdoor, go to, I forget the other websites that there are, and you can compare the salaries across the state, and it shows you what they are in each particular region on the one that I looked at. So in some cases, they're already being paid more than what is considered the median salary. And then I think there was one, I think it's advanced EMT is paid slightly less. And then one is about on par, but over the 3 year stretch, they would be pushed up into the remaining 25 percentile of the state, which is getting into the Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga range.
We ain't Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga though.
Correct, sir. I agree.
Whether we like it or not, we're Carter County and our wages ain't there.
Correct.
That's the same argument that somebody else is sitting here arguing about, and we give the bonus to thing, and they're still leaving.
And again, that's why we're having the hearing, so we can hash this out and kind of come to an idea about what we're looking at, so we can get Carolyn so it gives Carolyn a better idea for our bottom line. Because, if we increase to 387,000, that's a 64 and change increase for this year. This would be, as Mr. Tester pointed out, either the second or third year in a row that they would have hit a, $50,000, $60,000 increase.
I have no problem giving people raises going up. But what those numbers there are showing me is that you're talking people doubling or even tripling what they make. And it just.
No, it's not in that scale. Yeah, the paramedics, I think, make around 49 to 50,000 with overtime. And those are going up between 5 and 10%-ish over the next 3 years or so. In some cases it's more, some cases it's less, but we'll say somewhere in the 5 to 10% range. I think this was the only presentation that we received as far as outside agencies goes that gave me any level of heartburn. There's a salary schedule in one of those packets that breaks down what they're going to be going up. Yeah, Ross is. Yeah, Ross.
No.
Yeah.
He's the man.
Yes, sir.
If you give them roughly 15%, like all the other people have went up because of fuel and everything like that, round numbers, we're looking at 355,000 rough. That would be a 15% increase. And then I can look at, of course, this is gonna be up to the committees to look at taking the ambulances out of the ARP money to where it will cover their needs too.
Yeah. And again, that's going to be up to the Health and Welfare Committee to determine what they actually receive in that respect. I kind of disagree about including one in their actual budget that they present and then also coming in and asking for an additional one out of the ARP funds. And I understand the other one was asked, the third one was asked for by a representative in the county, and I have no problems with that. But are they going to be able to staff it?
Know if they asked the city for any more money?
I don't know.
So the rescue squad gets money from the city too with this, right?
Yes.
As of right here, what it says in their audit, a significant portion of the organization's support was provided by Carter County and the city of Elizabeth. The organization received $392,700 for the appropriation of the current year. So if you back out what we give them, that puts us to give them 70 grand.
City give them 70,000.
Yep. Based on those calculations. And if those calculations are taking into account what we
Does
actually gave.
the 322, does that include the extra 60 we give them, or is that also received?
Couldn't hear what you
I said the 322, does that include the extra money that we give them, or is that what they actually received?
think it's what they actually received. I think.
And they receive it monthly.
You may not like this, but I say we give them the same as last year and wait and see how we decide to do on the ARP funds. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, because they give us an invoice monthly, because I have to sign off on it. And it's based on what we gave them, and it's just split up by 12 months, and they take the money and.
It's budgetary. I can understand that. And I see where you're coming from, especially on the ARP funds, but I do know how much gas has risen. So if and through the other departments, we've given increases in those particular line items for fuel and other things like that. So
10% over last year.
It's 21.
Still $35,000.
This is this
it
current.
can change, yeah.
So they have, never mind, the city has given more per,
Well,
what it says they're
Something
getting.
just to consider.
So they're getting 120 from the city?
What,
Well, for rescue and emergency.
what I'm looking at, their audit is from 21 or from 20 to 21. She's got what they're submitting for.
So the city's giving in 120 grand, Gary. That's for search and rescue, and that's for,
It's 100,000 for EMS services and 20,000 allocated for rescue. So they're giving.
yeah, they're not shorting it.
amount, I think.
They're not shorting it.
They're giving their share to that. I'm not denying that.
The one you gotta consider,
Again.
when we're talking about the ARP,
But
they don't have to obligate that. That may not be obligated for more than a year. Because they don't have to expend it till what, 2024?
we're paying, like you saying with the ARP money, they're not gonna ask the city to buy them or ambulance. It'll come from us.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, they're just asking for it in in their budget request.
They've got
That's on there.
one ambulance in the budget, and then two more, one requested by them, one requested by a private citizen in the ARP funds.
that's 3 total.
3 total.
I say we give them 10% over last year, and then we see where the ARP funds are going, because if we decide to fund the ARP funds, they still get paid. I mean, and then if we even give them to, are they gonna have the manpower to do it?
I don't mind the 20% increase. That's me personally, because we've got to get these ambulances back on the road.
I think we're getting confused on the ambulances. They've asked for an ambulance in their budget, but it's the same ambulance that they've asked for in ARP money.
Oh, it is?
Yes, there's just 2 total ambulances.
So if you pay for the ambulance,
That's
they
what-
are. they don't
Because
need
when
to
I asked
budget.
him the other day, 2 regulars and one of the heavy duty ones for.
The heavy duty one.
So if
See,
there
there's
are.
two
That's what I asked him, and unless I misunderstood him, that's what I asked. I said.
And I talked to Terry, and that's not how I've understood it. Now, the one about the private citizen needs to be just pushed out. That's the private citizen, and he's basing that upon the Sluter property being completed, and we don't know, that's
We have no
still
idea
very
that's-
preliminary. So that needs to be set aside. The 2, my understanding is Terry was only asking for 1, and I think he has misconstrued his budget and the ARP together. I don't think he's asking
The one
for
that he
two.
put in this.
That's a big deal.
I know.
If he's wanting the double dip.
I think I would be confused on why he would do that.
This one right here is the 241,000 one. That is the one that is specially made for heavy.
Right.
That's the one that
One
he's.
that has the
put in-
lift on it.
Yes, that he's put in the budget request. So.
It's the
That's
same
why I
one.
say, I don't mind the 20%
It's the
myself.
same request for the ARPs, what I'm saying that
Is
too.
it about the same?
Yeah, it's all the same. That's what I'm saying. This is one, that's supposed to be one ambulance. I don't think he's requesting two.
When he gave the prices out in here, they was on the two, there was a $20-some thousand difference between the two. One was identified as the wide body
Right.
and the other one was a high tech.
Was he pricing Mr. Cable's ambulance though?
I think-
That's true. I've
Mr.
counted
Cable
it out.
had come in with his own.
Let's see, that's
Well, in his budget request, he's saying 190,000. But if you go
So
back.
that's the one I know about, the one that's
If you
wide.
go back here where he's broke it down, it's 241,000
I got you.
here.
It's actually, I've got the quotation on that, 241,
I've got it right
120.
here, yeah, it's in the back of this one. But when
Is
he
that the
looks,
190-some thousand one?
200 change.
241, that's the wide.
that's the wide one, but the one that he's
Lift and
requesting
wide.
in here is 198,000.
Then the other one is, it stepped up as far as
Okay, disregard it then. I just feel
the
like.
level
I
of
don't
commitment.
know, I mean,
Does it say in there what their
Again, if we're going to ARP funds, 10% over, let's deal it out with ARP funds. Because it ain't gonna make any difference. This is a budget. ARP would be separate. This sets the budget.
If he's asking for two, that's where the thing is.
Mark?
Just, just so we won't look like the bad guys here. In the last 3 years, their budget, we have increased, if you do this at 10%, you have increased their budget approximately $142,000 to $150,000, depending on whether you got 60,000 or 68,000. So in the last 3 years, the county has increased their budget $150,000.
Well, if you look at their plan that they submitted to us over the next 3 to 5 years or something like that, they're supposed to be well over $1 million per year by their request schedule, what they were, I think is what.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was making me go, what? That was why I was looking at the salary schedules, what the salaries were going to.
I have no problem somebody's plan schedule. Again, with Carter County, we ain't Knoxville, Nashville, Chattanooga. It's never gonna, that's unheard of salaries in this county. It's unheard of. You live in your means, whether I like it, say it, or people gets mad or not.
Well,
Don't like it, move to Knoxville.
and I'm just playing devil's advocate. The paramedics have to go to school for like 4 years to get to that level. So, it's essentially a college level degree that you're getting to. And generally, people expect to be paid if they're coming out of a college level degree. And I'm not disagreeing that Carter County can't pay that, but.
Well, I don't feel like what they were, their salary, pay salary wasn't ridiculous. A paramedic was $25 an hour, EMT was 21, and a basic was 17. I don't feel like that's absurd, and then it goes up $1 each year. Of course, the thing about it is though, is that they don't have all them employees, and they don't know if they're gonna get all the employees, even if they get the extra money.
Correct. And this is not one that rolls back into the county budget either. So
No,
if it's unexpended funds, it just goes into their fund balance. And I think they had a little more than $1 million in reserve at the moment.
well, at the end of their audit, right here's what I'm looking at, they had $1,075,942 on June the 30th of 2021, with an accounts receivable balance of $827,621, which should leave them technically cash on hand if everybody pays their bills, 1.9.
I think Nancy said they were sitting on around 900,000 a little over.
That's probably where they're at, which he told me it was high they typically did. I think he maybe said around typically 500 to 600 is what they held, but they got a bunch of COVID money, he said, so.
Well,
10% on 350 miles, $35,000 increase. You tell me how much in fuel?
we're getting into dead horse territory. So are we looking at 10, 15, or 20, and I'm not asking for a vote, I'm just asking for somebody to throw something out there.
I'm still on for 20.
We've got Gary over here at 10. Let's
Fifteen
split.
then, I'll meet you in the middle.
All right, 15, Mr. Tester, you win, sir.
45.
So preliminarily, 15%.
What's that number?
355 and change,
At 15.
at 15%. That would be their amount approved to be 355 and change.
4805 will be the additional.
What's the total?
355.
The way I look at it is rather than buying another ambulance that they don't have staff to drive,
37105.
that would go also toward
71,105.
Is that what you got, 37105?
37105, okay.
371. 7105.
71.
Say it fast.
371,105?
Yes.
Thank you. I had it incorrect, my apologies. So that's what we're looking at for that one. All right, time to do the dirty. Carter County Volunteer Fire Departments. Asking for an increase of $43,000. Primarily, I would say most of that's going to go in PPE and fuel. Am I correct, Carolyn?
So, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Is that, since Elizabethton's broke out, is that 7 volunteer fire departments? Because Butler's broke out and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So that's 7.
Should be 7. So I was gonna suggest that you all come up with a number that divides by 7. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but that number.
All numbers divide by 7.
4,000 per department is what they're asking.
$65K for a
So it was a
department.
$4,000 increase per department, which is why we looked at Elizabethton Fire and put that 4,000 there.
60.
Okay, so you're talking
6,000.
about that 10% increase then, right? Okay.
Well, 10% is a different number entirely.
Well, no, I took the $43,000 increase and divided it
So
by 7.
that one wasn't supposed to be 10%.
Well, I done was took 43,000 divided by 7.
So it's 65 times 7, it's 455.
That's 42.7. So are you saying it should have been the 470 or not? What's your recommendation might have been?
They asked for 470. So that, what am I saying? It's
67, 142, 85,
I
71.
got $6,100 some dollars each.
Yeah, it was about $6,000 each, if I remember.
I take 43,000 divided by 7.
What about if we do 469? I guess every one of them 67 and it's all.
Yeah, just give them all. You can give them all how much? What's your? I mean, if you divide that, it comes up 6,142. $6,142.
Increase. 6,007.
Oh, well, I divided the 470 by 7.
Yeah.
It's better for fuel cost, right?
So what are you saying? Is that what you were thinking, staying with the 470?
That gives them 67,000 each.
Okay. You gonna do it that way?
How much each?
67.
67.
That's 469 then, right?
489.
Would that be 469?
At 67, it still keeps it at the 470, right?
Yeah.
That just gives them all 67,000.
No, it's 67,000, and take them to 469.
I understand. These are few changes there.
So 469 on those guys.
469, not the 470.
If you take 67,000 per department, right, and there's 7 departments.
Yeah, So I just thought, well, when I divided the 470, 67,142. Okay.
Got the easy stuff done.
All right. Thank you guys for your patience.
What do we end up saving?
469 on the fire department.
Oh,
Well, Kids Like Us is
169,000.
No, we removed him.
Yeah, I know. So we're looking at savings.
We end up, we can wait till next time, so that's fine. She's gonna probably adjust those anyway.
See, our next meeting is,
We still got sheriff's department.
We ain't done yet, Brian.
no, I know, I say our next meeting is
It's
on
like,
Tuesday.
it's almost ice cream time, boys. I'm out of here.
budget meeting.
It's the 9th. We don't have the budget meeting next week.
Okay, my question is, we should be able to have all this correction ready to go
On the
at our
9th.
next meeting. Or we
Yeah.
either put it to rest or make it ready.
And then that's when we plan to vote.
Well, we can on this, but we can't vote on everything yet because we don't have one settled, so.
The schools, don't they have to send theirs back when the school board vote on it?
Yes.
Yeah,
It was just preliminary. They just came in and presented for informational purposes, but the school board has not completed their side of it yet. It was just a formality that they needed to present to this committee.
okay, so we went back one department, correct? Now, we've got the numbers both ways. Are we gonna deal with it now or sure, or what?
It's on the agenda. Review financial information received to date. So we're gonna run through it. Now, the difference between the two, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, one says other sources and expenditures, other uses. And then the one that Carolyn has done, revised by Finance Department 4/28/2022. Those are the two different ones that we're looking at.
One revised and one out, right?
Correct. One is the raw data received from the sheriff's department, and the other one is the revised based on the numbers and the salary schedule that they had received.
Now, the salary schedule that they sent is pretty massive and it's too big to print. The budget that I did the revisions on, it has the salary schedule out of Skyward, and then there are two columns. One that gives what could be determined as the step raises. The amount he came up with for those additional was significantly different. So I basically kind of split it into half of it because I couldn't figure out where those numbers came from. And I had sent back a pretty detailed email
I saw your email.
on that. Yeah, I was sure to say, I think I copied a couple of you all on it. And I did not get a response for that. So I just did the best I could with it and put information in there. So at least you all would have something to look at. I did take all the names out with the positions for
Lieutenant Range come over and meet with you.
what?
Lieutenant Range come over and meet with you.
He came over today, but I was in another meeting. And so, I mean, at this point, I don't know what he can or can't do with that. So we just tabled that at this point. So, because I was in another meeting when he came over and yesterday he was tied up with another situation.
So it looks like, if you look at page 5 on theirs and 6 on the revised. Hold on, let me double check and make sure I'm looking at the same thing. Yeah. That is the jail one. Or are these both combined into one? Before I open my mouth and stick my foot. Yeah, total sheriff's department is on page 3. The one from the sheriff's department, and then the revised one is page 4 on Carolyn's, on the finance department.
John.
So the one the sheriff's department presented is 156,950, 29 increase. And the revised one is 67,159.08. So we're all looking at the same set of numbers for the total sheriff's department. We'll flip over to the jail. So is the discrepancy that's shown here, the almost $60,000 between the two, is the vast majority of that in salaries?
A lot of it is, one of the big things that I noted, as you're on that last page, is he had put in for additional vehicles. And during the discussion of the commission meeting, when he asked for the 7 new vehicles, he had said that they wouldn't ask for additional vehicles. So I don't know if that was just, he forgot to take it out or what it was, but I took it out.
Okay.
Because it was an additional, I believe it was 92,000, and I took it out.
So on his, we need to subtract out like 92,000 to get to an accurate representation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I just made that assumption because I've made the assumptions to get to the numbers that I did.
Okay.
So that would
If
be.
you take out that 92,000, your assumptions are the difference between what they presented and what you have revised to is a difference of $3,000.
For the most part, I mean, there were some other things I took out a little bit, and because that's one of the things we had discussed in the last budget meeting when they were actually here, was if they were getting the new vehicles, then we probably could do some reductions on maintenance and things like that. They had put in a much larger amount for gasoline. If you're getting new vehicles, they should be more fuel efficient. So I took out just a tiny bit there, but not a significant amount.
Okay.
That's on the sheriff's department. I took some other things out on the jail because they put like 50% in for food costs, which I thought was pretty excessive since the school system came in at 7%. Of course, now their purchasing is a little bit different, so I put it in at 20% on the jail because I thought that was pretty standard.
That feels pretty acceptable in my thought process. I would say anywhere from 20 to 30% on food cost would.
Yeah, but I just put it in at 20%, thinking that seemed to be more reasonable. I thought 50% seemed a little excessive.
That is that potentially part of the contract? Because I know that they contract for the food that they get in.
No, and I do know that right now they have a lot of excess in that part of their current year budget, and they're trying to spend it out before the end of the fiscal year, which I understand that, but that just tells me, we're at a point now where things are pretty high, and if they've got that much excess and they're not having as many people in the jail as they have in the past because of the lack of staff, it just made more sense to me to do that than leave it at the higher amount.
Okay.
Yeah, anything that they said was requirement, I did not change it.
All right. So let's see.
Yeah, like there's one that says SWAT requirement, like you can notice that, none of that type of stuff changed. Any of their trainings and all, travel and all that stuff, none of that changed. It was mainly just for the fact that I couldn't reconcile back to what they had on the salary stuff in the vehicle and some of the other things that I just thought seemed a little higher than they should be.
Can I ask you a question? On page 3, you deducted $4,000 for purchase of the 3 leased vehicles, then $5,000 for the vehicles, and $5,000 more for the vehicles. And you go to page 4, and we're doing the $45,241. So we just bought $300,000 worth of vehicles, but it's only saving us $59,241. Where's the other $240,000?
You'd have to ask him that question.
Actually, how much was the vehicles? 371 or 317?
317.
But you see what I'm asking right there, don't you?
That's why I took out what I did, so.
So we bought $320,000 worth of vehicles and we cut 59,000. Somewhere they need to cut about 200 more. I mean, the numbers just don't add up.
On his list, I'm trying to find the vehicles.
If you look at the one on, she's got right there on page 3, they reduced 5,000, reduced 5,000, reduced 4,000. Then on page 4, it reduced 45,241. You add all them together, it comes up to $59,241. So we bought $317,000 worth of vehicles. And we subtract 59,241, that's only 257, almost 258,000 left. 257,759.
I'm looking in his original budget that he presented, though. I'm looking for the vehicle line item purchase in there. And I'm missing it.
Before the jet.
Got it here.
The seven won't be in what he presented to start with.
Yeah.
Because that comes out of this year's fund.
Yeah, see, I didn't know what that was, so I didn't take it out.
Yeah. That's out of the reserve of
The board bill.
board bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Audra just made the comment, I didn't know what this was, so where it says principal on notes, that was the vehicles that have been bought, I guess, like 2 or 3 years ago. I think you made mention to that a few
Lease
weeks ago,
payment.
Austin. That's paid off, so that needs to come out. And I didn't know what that was, so
Line 602, page 4.
that's on page 3.
Of your revised,
Revised.
Well, I mean, it's page 3 of his, because that's the one I was looking at.
68,000 additional needs to come out.
It is on page 4 of mine.
Page 4707.
Yeah, so that needs to come out. Yeah, thank you, Audra. No, I didn't know what that was, so I
From
just.
that, 2019 interfund loan that you guys gave them,
that's on which one?
602 and.
So too.
Page 4, Gary.
I got it.
Yeah, in their presented budget, it's got 92,000 for proposed budget for vehicles.
Yes, now I did take that out because that was for 2 additional vehicles. That he told me 2 additional Tahoes, and I did take that out because he had made the comment in that meeting that they were not gonna get any more after they got their 317, and I had asked that that be taken out, and it wasn't, so I took it out.
Okay, so even if you took your 68,000 and added that.
Yeah, the SRO vehicle is different. It is based on that contract. And so I did leave that one in there, but that is kind of a washout, so, but that is an additional vehicle that they will get, that they've asked for this current year, and then I just left it in there for the next fiscal year.
Didn't you say one of the vehicles that was in the 317 was an SRO vehicle?
Yes, that was what he planned to tell us, was the new vehicles was to move to the road and all their vehicles was going to the
Go
SROs.
to SROs, but then there is an SRO vehicle that is supposed to be purchased
From who?
by contract.
It comes,
Contract by the school.
Yeah, so.
That would be their money then.
They go through their.
Yeah, he told me that the vehicle maintenance and all the vehicle stuff goes through the sheriff's department budget, not through
School.
the jail budget. That's what he told me when we were working on this previously.
So how does the pass-through work from where the schools provide him with money? Does that revenue show up in the budget?
It's in his, and that was the argument I had when Parrish told me that time when we had the 14. I said, no, you ain't down, you're down to 7 and 8. See, it's like right now, the schools are only under contract for 10. The county commission voted years ago to pay the difference. The problem is it goes into the line item for an officer, and then if he don't fill it, the money's still sitting there for an officer. And I want that labeled strictly to an SRO officer, not to a road deputy.
Well, I started.
It's not something that we can do in here because that would require motion.
Right, but
That would require motion.
That's how they've
so.
been, the thing about it is, it's like right now, we don't have a full staff of SROs.
Well, I don't think in the 4 years that I've been on here that I've known that there to be a full staffing of SROs, except maybe a scan.
For a full staff, and it's never meeting because you get to 10 or 12, they leave or go here or go to the road, and then you send them back to the academy, and then they work with the academy for 6 or 8 weeks till they learn, they come back, they become an SRO, and then they hire and go to the road. It's a revolving door of we can only keep 8, 9, 10, and 11 constantly. Or consistently would be the better word for it. But either way, the salaries are here for the other officers.
In true actuality, they should be a surplus in.
Right, and that SRO line should be gobs. So there really needs to be an SRO line and then a road deputy lines or however that breaks out, because, I mean,
they do have classifications in here for SROs, but I can't tell you just on some of the stuff that we've looked at when he's done changes, we have found that people are not classified correctly because I've gone back and asked for clarification, because when you're getting close on line items, I've got some in the drawer right now that I've asked, I don't have enough money in that line item to pay this person that additional amount, like a step raise or whatever you put through. They're still sitting there because I can't put those through payroll if I know there's not going to be enough money to fund it. And so then the comment is made back, well, they're really this. And I'm like, well, they're being paid from here. All I can do is go by what's in the payroll system, and I can tell you that there's not enough money there.
schools, if I'm correct, they sign a contract for 10 because the schools has to vote on it every year. And they take the money from the schools and they put it here. It comes through here through the governor's safety grant and then goes straight into the sheriff's department. That way it's moved from that part. So see, 10's all that they have to meet, but the problem is that money is sitting in an SRO line item. If we're putting the other money in it also, then it needs to be in an SRO line item and not, that way the SROs are paid out of the SRO line item.
They are, I mean, it's line 170.
There should be gobs of money left in that line though. Okay, then tell me how it ain't, because an SRO is listed as an SRO.
I have no control over their payroll. I mean, I'm just gonna say that right off the top. I have no control. They control all of that. They send over the documentation. Jacqueline puts it through the system.
But what I'm saying is,
No control over.
what I'm asking then is if they are listed as an SRO, then they need to be paid out of that line. Who determines their SROs?
He does.
You're gonna have to talk to him about.
They gotta go to that school. Then if he ain't got them, there should be money left in that line. Am I correct, Brad?
Should be.
Gobs of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a discussion you're gonna have to have with him. We have no control over that. They have their own payroll, HR. We just put the money through the system.
That'd be the same way it is with the correctional officers, where they have lost, they've had so many empty billets, nobody occupied them. And that's how they took the funds from that to pay for the bonuses for the patrol. It works the same way. If you have excess, it's been moved somewhere.
To me though,
It's for them to
it should
move.
come to us to move.
Budget amendment. For them to move it, should have to be a budget amendment, correct?
Anytime you move from one line to the other.
Then how's it moving if it's SRO lines without us voting on it?
Well, how is it he ain't here?
Well, I understand.
You're beating your head against the wall.
Not understanding the point.
Yeah, I understand the point.
A lieutenant may be classified as an SRO.
They've got to go to that school and they should be at the schools.
But you're not getting what she's
Yeah,
telling
I
you.
understand.
She's telling you that when he comes in and says, pay him out of this line item, well, that's not really what they are. They're paying the employees. They're the one that sets what position they are. So they can put any employee they want.
No, they have to give the schools a list of names. So they can't take any employee because we have to put them over there, make their badges and their laptops and everything. They got a name tied to them because we tie the security cameras and everything back to them people.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're paid that way. We have no control over that. That comes from
Am
his.
I correct? We should only be paying an SRO out of the SRO line item.
Unless he chooses to classify them as something else.
Thank you.
Well,
That's,
then
that's
he-
what I
As the
was-
elected
yeah.
Well, that means you would have to have a vacancy somewhere else. Reclassify from SRO maybe to CID. So you got a vacancy still over here.
Somewhere there's money.
But let me ask you a point, sure. Wouldn't it be advisable, the best thing is if we think that the revised is operational and it is, we feel comfortable that it's covering our employees and all that is the one we work toward our budget. And if anything, any different, then let them come to the budget committee or the full commission. Well, the budget committee.
Budget committee.
Goes to the budget committee. Yeah. I go. And then that's where we do the.
I understand.
Let me
Okay.
make one other comment,
Yes, ma'am.
because as we're talking about things not being in the correct place, one other adjustment that I did make, because I had asked this question. So if we're budgeting to be fully staffed on both the sheriff's side and on the jail side, he had asked for, was over $200,000 in overtime, mainly for the sheriff's department, because right now, if he is funding, or if he is taking employees, road officers, whatever, and putting them in the jail, their overtime is coming out of the sheriff's department budget, not the jail. It's not being reallocated over.
Correct.
So if we're budgeting for everything to be fully staffed, I did reduce slightly that overtime, which is probably why it may have gotten done last year, because there's been a lot of complaint about that being, because if you're fully staffed, you should not have the same
Overtime.
level of overtime that you're experiencing right now. And so if you're not fully staffed, then you would take that money from whatever area you're not fully staffed in and move it to overtime. And that would be easily done through a budget amendment.
Correct.
So that was the assumption that I made in the revised budget. If that's not correct, we can set it back or do whatever. But to me, that seemed logical, that if you are budgeting to be fully staffed, which that's what this is, he made the comment that he was one deputy short. And so there is an unfilled, if you look at that payroll schedule, there is an unfilled position. And if you look at the one for the jail, there are unfilled positions in that one more than I think he even mentioned the last time, but previously he had said a larger number. So we kind of tried to figure out what would be the best spot to put that. But if we need to increase the overtime more, then I need to go back and adjust that. But I'm just letting you know, that was kind of an assumption I made. If we're budgeting to be fully staffed, then I wouldn't assume the overtime would be as extensive as it is right now.
Correct.
We're not.
And I think that's a valid step to take.
Because if we're working that much overtime in the jail, it is because they're not staffed. But if we've got at a level of staff in this budget that, from what I understand, they probably never had. According to what I, was asking Jacqueline to go back and look historically as to how many people they've had. I mean, I'm not trying to shortchange them. If anything, I'm trying to give them more than sufficient to work with to do what they need to do. It had to be balanced somehow, because otherwise, if you don't do that, it's not balanced.
I agree.
Let me ask you a question. So if you're saying the proposed budget's there, are you gonna take the 68,040-something out of the principals and notes? So in other words, we should subtract that out.
That needs to come out. I missed that. I didn't know what it was, so anything I didn't know what it was, I didn't take it out. Because I did not want to shortchange anything that would create a problem for next year's operations.
I think that's a safe way to play it. So we take that 68,000 out, they're in actually under $1,000 under the new budget, under the proposed. Only about 3 of us saw that. So yeah, I agree with Brad. I think this is good enough for them to come back and talk with us about at budget meeting.
Do you want me to take that 68 and put it somewhere else in another line, or just take it out?
Just take it out. Because they don't need it in that particular line item, unless there is something glaring that will cost something like that, I would just take it out.
One thing, I'm sure we better think ahead also by doing this. Using what we recommend from the finance side to be the budgeted numbers to where we can go on. Sometime, and I'm going to predict, it'll be after the primary that the appearance will be made. Now, where are we going to be on our schedule? After, well,
The budget meeting occurs after the primary.
Scheduling dates.
what is,
We're way ahead of the schedule anyways.
Yeah, I should say, our original schedule's already been blown out of the water, so at this point, we would come back on the 9th. It's a regular meeting. It sounds like we should be able to finalize outside agencies. At that point, we should have, once this is done, we should have at least a decent idea of where we are as far as bottom line. And then at that point, you as a group would need to make decisions on where we go from there, because,
As far as raises and
balanced, yeah. Yeah, we can rerun the numbers, as far as number of employees. You want me to go with the flat amounts as far as employee raises that we talked about earlier? That seemed to be what everybody was more in favor of, because it does assist those that are at the bottom end of the scale and gives them more. Because if you give them a 4%, they're gonna get a whole lot less. The people at the top are gonna get a whole lot more. So if you're trying to help the people at the lower end of that scale, if you do a flat, then those people are gonna get more of that raise.
correct. And I think that's,
We run it at the 2,000 and the 1,000 that we had discussed, several weeks ago, which is what I was kind of basing my amount off of. And we can see what it comes up and then go from there.
because we have 247 total employees in the county, 271.
It was 302 last time I checked it,
302.
but it changes on a daily basis.
So
So
we're looking between 300 and 600,000.
it's probably about 610 is what I'm estimating right now, but
That was only 2,000, right?
with the 2,000 and the 1,000. So it'd be 2,000 for full-time, 1,000 for part-time.
And so out of outside agencies, we dropped around 300 or 280,000 with the correction for EMS.
This was,
so we're
I
not,
added it correctly, 434,950
We're not
got
as
paid.
short as we were.
but we're not, but schedule wise, so let's just get about making the May.
Well, I'd like to try to keep it as close as we can. So this one is basically the wild card at this point. So everybody else has come in and presented. You all have heard what their ask is and kind of looked through it. So this is the one that's kind of the wild card. Like, if we go in and put in this amount, then at least we know where we're kind of sort of at, which, that's still a moving target too, but at least we have an idea. So if we do that discussion, you still got to go back and vote on them. We have scheduled 3 additional meetings. So the 9th is the regular meeting, the 12th.
16. County Commission, I'm sorry.
So I think it's the 12th, the 17th, and the 23rd are the additional 3 meetings. And we can still add more meetings if you want to. We just have to give 10 days notice. Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, 10.
10 days, business days notice for additional meetings.
No. You're talking about before you have to publish a county meeting?
Or is it just 5 days?
Yeah, generally 5 days.
Oh, the other thing was 10 days.
Yeah, publication of the budget before the commission hearing.
Commission is 10 days. So if we could get it resolved and get everything decided by the end of May, then it could be published and sent out to the commission the end of May, and then we could still vote on it as a commission in June. But if we don't make that date, then it will be July.
Okay. is everybody in agreement with changing the last meeting in May from a hearing to an actual meeting to where we can, doesn't change cost or anything, but we can change it to an actual meeting where we can vote on it, still have plenty of time to have it ready for the June commission.
Well, really, that's your call as chair.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm just asking for,
And if we needed to-
But I'm just saying.
we could add the 31st. That is an open date in May. That's the day after the holiday, so I didn't choose that particular day, but we have plenty of time that we could add that if we see we're getting further down. And that would still, it'd be tight, but we could get it out to the commission. There's a June 9th date that I think the commission has for a workshop, I guess, to review the budget.
Budget workshop.
Yeah, none of that stuff has been changed because I don't know where we're at yet. So there's no point in trying to change any of that stuff until I know where we're at.
and the actual commission meeting's on what date? Let me pull my calendar up.
16th.
16th, so
16th of May and
20th of June is the next.
So the 9th is when we've got the workshop scheduled for.
Yes.
Yeah.
June the 9th, I will be out of town. I will be on, I'm going to a mission trip down in Townsend, so I will be completely out of town for that workshop.
July it is. That's what July it is.
So do we need to, well, I mean, I guess we've got some time that, I guess that date could be changed because the June calendar that's published in the paper has not been obviously settled on yet. So that is something that could be changed. It's just on the original budget calendar.
Well, it won't be settled until after the full commission meeting in May. That's where we make a correction. Is that not correct? Sure. All right. Gee whiz.
All right, so the potential hearing that you've got scheduled on the 23rd, is that the one?
Yes, that's the last one that's currently on the schedule.
Change that one to an actual meeting on the 23rd rather than a hearing. Doesn't change anything it just gives us voting power at that meeting.
Okay, Josh, do I need to advertise that in the paper that it's changed to a different kind of meeting?
Yeah, if it's no longer
Hearing.
a hearing, if it's an actual voting meeting, it needs to be advertised that way.
Okay.
Actual budget committee meeting period. It's not here.
That's which date? We're coming in to sing.
23rd.
I got a federal.
What's on the calendar do we have? On the revised budget calendar, it's got the 22nd, Finance Department outside agency.
We had to change
Funding
that
and
because
use.
we are off schedule, so that we had
So
to
you
change
had,
it.
you had to reprint.
I didn't reprint that. I just
Okay.
changed it to the advertisement in the
Okay.
newspaper. Do I need to change that one? Okay.
Because I don't want to miss it, that's it. Remember
Okay.
what you do in your own mind, you got public for weaklings like us.
So can we confirm those to make sure?
Get the paper.
Yeah.
12th, 17th, 23rd is the actual meeting. No,
Yeah.
no.
The 9th,
That's our regular.
the 9th is the regular budget committee meeting,
June 9th, I'm sorry.
June 9th. That one is not set in stone as of yet.
Yeah. May 9th is just the regular budget meeting.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know you mentioned a flat raise, 1,000 and 2,000. That's only two options. And I know it's more work on finance, but I would ask that we look at 1,500 too, because I'm almost positive it'll come up on the floor of what is the numbers, and if they already run them.
It's 1,000 full-time,
No, 2,000.
2,000 full-time, 1,000 part-time is what it is. It's just the one.
So you want 1,500 and 750 too?
Yes, because right or wrong, I'm sure it'll come up and be looked at, and that it'd be a lot quicker if you already have the numbers if it's asked.
That's too low. Do we do that?
1,500, I think you did 1,000.
Oh, yeah, 1,500. I don't know, it's been
I think that's.
Sorry, I've slept since
Sorry.
then. I don't remember.
I went the other way too.
I would say,
25 and 1250?
Well, I was actually looking at that when he said one, I was thinking it was basically gonna be 1,000 and 2,000 was the numbers. That's why I was asking 15. I didn't realize you was gonna do part-time and then full-time in that. So, yeah, I mean, I have no problem going with 15 and 25 if that's what you're looking for, something. Just three options there, something.
so.
There is a gap between them two that,
What?
So also 2,500
1250.
On a flat scale.
you just flat scale.
okay.
And I don't mean nothing's passed or anybody's pushing anything. It's just, let's just look at the numbers.
Yeah, that schedule that I did for you all a while back when we were talking about the raises and all that stuff, I mean, we can go back to that type of scenario where it had all the different ones.
I think that'd be,
And then that way you've got the information of what they all would be, because they were percentages and all
Yeah,
that
if you
stuff.
just had flat scales and just those numbers, everybody can look at it. It's just right there.
And what it's gonna cost total for the whole thing, what's gonna add to our budget amount, like.
Sometimes you get asked up there and you're trying to get, you're covered up. And is this right, that right? And it's confusing. This way it gives you time to check it. It's on paper. Everybody sees it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we did with that other stuff, is that way everybody could see it in front of them, and now we can go with where we are right now. Of course, that is subject, it's a moving target, so it's subject to change, people come and go and so forth, but we can, we can run the numbers as to where we are right now and have that ready, and then we kind of go from there, just knowing that it may change depending on the number of employees, so.
and you'll have about a month to get it finalized for the 23rd meeting.
Yeah, well, we may just have to say it's, this number as of this date, and then if it is any more, then we'll just have to address it a different way.
Still, it's just flat numbers because you ain't looking at, okay, a percentage and this percentage and that one. It just,
Yeah.
all of it just flat numbers.
Well, and that gets complicated when you have, especially with a department that has like step raises that come and go, and they don't always get in at the same time, and those can skew it significantly. And so if it's flat, that also makes it easier because it's just based on the number of employees. So the only thing is that may change up or down one or two, but that's not material.
Thank you guys for your awesome work. The sheriff's department looks good at this point based on what you've come back as. So you two laughing at.
I would, Austin,
It's only 9 o'clock.
well, I guess Aaron, whichever one you all is on first at this point.
First call.
If you would like for the sheriff's department to come back and have discussion, that request needs to come from you, not from me.
Yeah, they said they were going to be here in May, and we'll just tell them, just go ahead and show up at the budget here. We'll show up at the budget meeting on the 9th. I'll message Chief Parrish and Dexter.
Yeah, that will need to come from you this time instead of from me.
Here, what we got next week? Just the regular fall meetings, that it?
Yeah, I was sure to say there's meetings on next week. They're not budget meetings. There's commission
Yeah,
meetings.
there's, I know we got the special call meeting.
And stuff.
Friday. But it's at 5, right?
Thanks, guys.
Estes will be calling.